I'd like to call out our senior graduating players, Groot and Dennis Stark, and if their families can come down as well, we'd appreciate it. So we'll start with Lucas. Lucas is going to be graduating in May with his degree in marketing. But what makes Lucas's story so unique is that while he's in the last year of his degree, he's actually in his first year of eligibility with our program, which is a really unique thing that almost never happens. I knew Luke back when I used to coach high school basketball at Dutchess Park back in 2006, and he played for our crosstown rivals at Kelly Road. And I remember always being worried about playing against Luke because he was known for being so calm under pressure and making big shots at big times. And once Luke graduated high school, he didn't come up to UNBC right away, but he was a big part. He was always around our program for the next few years. He was a regular fixture in our gym during home games, supporting the team. He was good friends with a number of guys who come through our program, and he was always scrimmaging with us in the summers and in the off season. Now, in July of this year, I heard that I didn't hear from Luke, but I heard from some other people that Luke was going to try out for the team. And to be honest, at the time, I wasn't really sure that it was going to work out because Luke hadn't played competitively in over 5 years. But throughout the summer, I'd come into work. I'd show up at work and I'd come into my office, and about midday I'd wander out and I'd look into the gym, and there would be Dennis and there would be Luke, and they'd be getting shots up and they'd be working on their game. I'd wander back into my office. A little later in the day, I'd come back out, wander back into the hallway there, and I'd look into the weight room, and there would be Luke pushing weight, working on getting stronger, working on getting more fit. And by the time we got to September, Luke was probably in the best shape he's ever been in his life. And when we got to training camp, when we got to tryouts, by the end of that process, there was no doubt in my mind that Luke deserved a spot on our roster. Now, because we're a team of a lot of third and fourth year veteran players, there are a lot of nights where Luke doesn't get a lot of playing time, but that doesn't diminish the contribution that he's had to our team this season. His maturity and character in our locker room has been second to none. He's a great teammate. He's been an absolute pleasure to have on the team. And it's very rare that you can say this when you're talking about a first-year player, but he brings a lot of very strong leadership qualities into our locker room. And we really appreciate what you brought to the team, Luke, and what you brought to our program. And I know that with your work ethic and with your character, whatever you end up doing with your life after you graduate, you're going to be very successful, and you're always going to be welcome back to UNBC as one of our Timberwolves family. Thanks. Dennis Stark. I was thinking about this afternoon, what I was going to say about Dennis, and I quickly realized that, in the 5 minutes I have up here, there's no way that I can express all the things that he's meant to our program over the past 5 years. He's one of a very small handful of players who will graduate after playing 5 years wearing a UNBC Timberwolves uniform. And I remember, I've known Dennis as well since he was in high school, since he was a junior at Kelly Road. And it's been an absolute pleasure, Dennis, watching you grow from the boy you were then to the high quality, high character man that you are today. Sorry, just give me a second. When I think about Dennis's career, what really strikes me is how it parallels the growth that our program has had. And I think his career has spanned the 5 years where our program has probably seen the most growth. I remember Dennis's rookie season. The very first big home game he ever played was the very first set of home games that were ever played in this beautiful facility that we have here. And at that time, that wall was empty up there. And Dennis has spent the next 5 years really working to help establish a tradition of excellence that's now the standard with our program. I remember Dennis' second year, 2009, we hosted the CCA National Championships in this building. And I remember I was sitting over there, I was Coach Rainbow's assistant coach that year. And I remember looking down at this rim, and it was during one of those games, and Dennis threw down an absolutely massive and one dunk. And this place was shoulder to shoulder with people. And I remember the roof almost coming off of this place. And when I look back and I think back about the history of our program, you know, Dennis was an all-star at that national tournament. We finished 4th in the country. And I think that was the moment that I really look back as a turning point where our program went from one that was, you know, a quality program within our conference provincially to a program that since has competed at the national level every single year. And, you know, Dennis was a big part of that weekend. I think everybody knows what happened the next year. Dennis, obviously, a huge part of putting those banners up on the wall. National championship and our first ever provincial championship in 2010. Last year, again, another great season by Dennis. We go 16-2. We finish 5th in the country. Dennis finishes as a conference all-star. Another great year. This year, again, Dennis did an unbelievable job in the off-season of conditioning himself. He came in at the start of the year as our best conditioned player. Unbelievable work ethic. And he's been a great leader for our team so far this year. But, you know, when I think about all the accomplishments and what Dennis has meant to UNBC basketball, his role as a player pales in comparison to what he's been as an ambassador for our program, for our university off the court. Dennis, more than almost anyone I've ever coached, understands what it means to be a student athlete, which means student first, athlete second. During his time here, he's won a couple of conference academic awards, and last year, a very special honor, he was an academic All-Canadian, which means that there's a very small group of players in the country that get that award. It's awarded for having a high academic standard as well as a high standard on the court. He's also been extremely active in our community service events. You know, for those of you who took part in the Terry Fox Run this year for cancer, you'll probably remember Dennis leading the warm-up to start that. You know, he's done things like going into retirement homes to visit senior citizens and brighten their day. He's been a staple over his 5 years here, going into elementary schools, talking to kids about basketball skills, what it means to be a university student, and just being an absolutely great role model in our community. You know, so Dennis, thank you so much for what you've been over the last 5 years. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know that whatever Dennis does after he graduates is going to be extremely successful, but you know, I'm selfishly hoping that he ends up somewhere in Prince George working so that I'll be able to keep him on my coaching staff, hopefully, and help him mentor some of our young players coming in. You'll always be a part of our Timberwolves family, Dennis. We appreciate everything you've done.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together one last time for all of our graduating players.